Hello friends, I'm very happy to be with you. I'm very grateful to be with you. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of Biocare Hospital. And I'm very grateful because you're opening the door to your house, to your car radio, to your workplace. Wherever you are, you open the door to have this small chat with me. This is a very informal conversation about you, the people that you love, about healthcare, about health improvement, prevention, resilience, resistance. This is a conversation that, from my personal point of view, is very important. So, let's begin with the beginning. I mean, from the very beginning of humankind, it was very important to congregate, to be together. Congregation meant survival. If we would not have anybody close to us, we would probably not survive. Individuals alone could not survive, but groups did. And those groups went to caves, went to work together, went to help each other, went to defend each other, went to help in need in case of an accident or a wound or anything like that. And that meant survival. Living in groups, of course, avoided the risk of animals and all sorts of threats. Wolves ended up being our friends, our best friend, actually. And just because we were in groups. A human alone, as an individual, would probably have been eaten by the wolf, and the wolf would never have incorporated our affection as it has. I mean, dogs are very close to us, are very dear to many people, and as we say, that's man's best friend. So, survival was very dependent on congregation. And that brought another important concept, that when we care for each other, when we help each other, when we look after each other, then we're going to thrive. We're going to exist, we're going to be triumphant, and we're going to be in very good shape. But in today's environment, that means a lot more than just defending ourselves from the enemy or from wolves or anything like that. It means really, really taking care of every one of us. And remember that care is a very proactive verb. You don't care by somebody that, like saying, oh, I care for you. No, you have to do something about it. You have to show you care. There are many verbs. When you say I love you, that's a feeling that you have inside. That's a feeling that inundates our soul. When I love somebody, I'm very happy because I love that person. But when I care for somebody, that's a different story. Because caring is a proactive verb. That means I'm going to look after you, I'm going to provide, I want to make sure that I'm going to help you in case of need. If not, you're not really caring. You might like a person, you might even love that person, but you don't care for the person. And what the whole idea that started everything that we are today was precisely that. And then we thought, what we want people to do is to take care of themselves, to take care of you as what you are, a living human being. And that means life. That means providing and making sure that your life is good and vibrant and effective and performing, etc. And that only can mean that we are bio-caring. Because bio is the root for life. That's why we say biology, or we say biography, because bio means life. The story of your life is your biography. And Biocare is everything you set in motion every day to help your health just be there for you. Because if you don't have it, those of you that unfortunately have lost it know how important it is. And we have just gone through a very terrible period of 2 years of pandemic that destroyed the lives of many people that we love, but also left a big scar, because many people have taken months and months and months to recoup, and now we have even a COVID long haul, as we call it, because it doesn't seem to go away. We have a good answers for that, but that's a different story. But the fact is that if we lose our health, we lose our stamina, we lose our joy to live, there's a very small purpose left in life. Because health actually means enjoyment. You cannot enjoy your life if you are not healthy. And that is what has brought us to where we are. When I began as a doctor more than 50 years ago, I came from a very traditional family that used to do a lot of things that people stopped doing by the time I was growing up. It was becoming old-fashioned. It was becoming, no, that's not important. It was medicine. The medical world was changing radically and rapidly. We began to think that we had conquered disease. Why? Because we discovered antibiotics. And infections were the big killers of previous, not years, but centuries. People died because of infections. And if you read the history, this one died of pneumonia, that one died of tuberculosis, this one died of meningitis, the other one died of, you name it. It was always an infectious episode that killed those people. So when antibiotics came about, wow, that changed the world. And it changed it in such a way that Sir Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of penicillin, is buried at Westminster Cathedral. That's how important that discovery was for mankind. And then we thought, we got it made. No matter what comes to us, we're going to defeat it. And we started the party. Antibiotics became available in the late 40s, I mean to the general public, to you and me, probably in the late 40s. And then 50s and 60s and 70s, we saw more and more and more and more active and more sophisticated and more of this. And then we came to the conclusion that many people are still hanging on. If I have a health problem, I go to the doctor. And my good doctor is going to give me a prescription. And my prescription, I'm going to take it to my pharmacy. And they're going to give me a drug, and voila, everything is over. So I can do whatever I want. I can not only use my body, but I can abuse it. And I was beginning to be a doctor and growing as a doctor, I saw that we were leaving aside many important things, like what kind of food we eat, what time of the day I eat, what time I go to bed. If I have an infection, do I take any biological care of my problem? Do I go to bed? Do I drink chicken soup? Do I have a cup of tea? No, I can go to the movies because they're going to give me a pill to fight the disease or to disguise the symptoms. Because in many cases, we just disguise the symptoms. So a good friend of mine used to say that this is exactly the same thing you do if there is a fire at home and all you do is you take the batteries of the smoke detector. You will feel nothing, but the fire is still going on. And that fire, and I couldn't have chosen a better word, because fire is the same word from, the same root from which inflammation comes from. Inflammation, flames. So we let our bodies be destroyed by inflammation because we have neglected and in many times distorted and attacked, directly attacked, the very systems that were built in our bodies to fight all these phenomena. So we didn't care for anything else. We just could have our party, have our cake and eat it, and just have fun. And I saw how people began to get sicker and sicker and more frequent, and weight, body weight became a problem. I invite any of you, if you still have some photographs, if you have an album of family photographs, let's say from the 1950s, look at everybody. Everybody used to be slim and thin. And then look at the pictures of these just previous holidays, Christmas, New Year, etc. Look at the difference. So you don't have to go to the 17th century or anything like that. All you have to do is go back to your grandmother's pictures album to discover how different people were. If you go to the web, there are many videos in which they show you how people lived in America, let's say in 1960. And you're going to look at their bodies and look at how they look today. That's a very important part of information that you might be missing. So I want you to stay with me because I'm going to tell you how we developed the Biocare system based on those conclusions. Don't go anywhere. And as promised, I'm back. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of Biocare Hospital. And we're talking today about Biocare. What do you really mean by Biocare? What Biocare Hospital means, what our protocols come from and mean. All those things are very important for you to understand what is our mission and what is our purpose, where we come from, and how we have gathered all the protocols and therapies and programs that we do at Biocare. And I was telling you that as a doctor, as a very young doctor, I'm talking probably in the 1960s, I started looking at how many important things that I have lived through in my youth and even childhood, coming from a very much together family group, that a lot of the things that used to be done for certain conditions were left alone. I remember, for example, if I got a flu, if I got any sort of tonsillitis, anything like those things, I, of course, would have never been given antibiotics. And number one, because they were not available. Number two, when they became available, and that's probably in the middle 50s, they were very expensive. The simplest drug was very expensive. It was an antibiotic. You could get sulfa drugs. I don't know if some of you remember sulfa drugs. They're not an antibiotic, but work as an antibiotic. And if worse come to worse, you were given a sulfa drug. So what our mothers did, what our grandmothers did, well, exactly what humankind had done for millennia. They knew better than we do. I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you, because we are so enchanted with our new technology and scientific knowledge, etc., that we have forgotten that we were created in perfection. And that perfection means not only that we have two hands, feet to walk, head to think, stomach to digest food and use the energy and the nutrients available in the food. Not only that, but it meant that this body of ours was provided with a lot of systems to fight off disease, to be resilient, to be able to heal and come back to health whenever the body was attacked. Many people might be surprised about that, because I still talk to people when I say, well, this child has this thing. Let him stay home for a couple of days, 3 days. Let's do just this or that or something very simple. And people say, but why don't you give him an antibiotic? Or why don't you give him an anti-inflammatory? Why don't you give him... Because the body has all that. The body has antibiotics. The body has immune enhancers. The body has anti-inflammatories. The body has everything the body needs to heal. Otherwise, humankind would not exist. Because 100 years ago, we didn't have antibiotics, we didn't have anti-inflammatories, we didn't have any of those things, and we, much worse, 200 years or 1,000 years, and still we all, as humankind, are still here. Why? Because our body has all those resources built in. What is the problem? The problem is we do not let them work because we don't know them, we don't understand them, and because we have become very happy to think that the doctor can cure us. It's simple, isn't it? Why do I have to go to my room for a couple of days and rest and drink water and be teary eyes and sleepy instead of taking a pill that my doctor is going to give me, and then I go to the movies, or I go to the party, or I go on the trip? You see, we're not willing to do anything. Try that with a house plant. Let's say you have a wilted plant at home. I don't know who you go to because they're not doctors for plants. But you don't have a tablet and put it on the soil. No, you do a lot of things. You check the water, you check the sunlight, you check if it doesn't have any worms, you check if it doesn't have any parasites. You do things for it. You do a lot of surveillance of the whole environment of that plant to fix it. Yet, we have come to believe that one pill or two pills are going to get us out of problem. And what I have seen is that when people get, let's say, a sore throat or a flu or anything like that, and they just take a symptomatic substance, they feel better, they can continue doing what they want, but then, you know what happens? Then the infection is going to linger. Not as, you don't feel it as aggressive because you're taking all these things, but then not 2 days, but 4, 5, 1 week, 2 weeks, and people still don't feel well. Why? Because you cut the ability of the body to fight back. The best way to kill a microbe in the body is by raising the temperature, because you set in motion a lot of the immunity that the body has built in. What do? The first thing we take is a tablet to fight temperature. No, I don't want to be feeling with temperature. I don't want to be... I know there are limits. You have to be watchful. That's what people don't want to do. People want to say, doctor, give me a pill and I don't want to do anything else. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm not going to take care of my son or my daughter. I'm not going to be watching them, making sure they drink a lot of water, making sure they stay in the rooms, making sure they have a good sleep, making sure temperature is under control, not too high, but I'm not going to fight it off because part of that temperature is part of the healing. White blood cells become more active, enzymatic activity becomes more active, immunity becomes more active, everything becomes more active so we can fight the infection. So when you have all those things in hand, then you think we're missing something. And as I started as a doctor, the first thing I saw was that hospitals cannot provide the help I needed. So we and a group of people decided to create our own hospital. A place where we could say what you eat, how you eat, where we could use enemas, where we could use herbal teas, where we could use everything we knew the body needs to heal. Because the body has that capacity. Our bodies can heal. We just don't give them the chance. So that was Biocare was. A place where a sanctuary where your body can recuperate and feel better. It's like taking your houseplant to a greenhouse. You're going to be under a very protective environment. I'm going to take care of your every need, and you're going to see how you come back. And people did better. And when I started as an alternative, as they called us, doctor, I had the privilege of meeting fantastic people in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in Australia. So I started picking from here, from there. I'm sure they picked something from some of our ideas. But the fact is, once again, being together, congregating with the people that believe in what you believe makes you stronger. That's why we go to church together, don't we? Well, so I started working in this area with many people. I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Carrie Reams, who was testing for the acid level of the body, and Donald Kelly, who started using a lot of enzymes, following the German school of proteolytic enzyme therapy for cancer, and Dr. Krebs with Letril, and so on. People that were really, truly fighting for things, and people, as I told you, in other continents like Asia or Europe or Australia that were working in the same direction. So that helped a lot, because you were always getting different points of view. You were always, what if I do this? This makes a lot of sense. Let me read what you have done. Let me read what the information is about this is all about. But even medical literature was not that friendly. A lot of these ideas were not very much out. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Like, for example, intestinal flora. Intestinal flora 10 years ago used to publish probably 700 papers a year. Today, there are probably 70,000. Because finally, we are beginning to see beyond the prescription pad. But it's not your doctor, it's you as consumer that has to do a lot of changes. It is you that has to say, no, I'm not going to take this prescription. I want to see what else can I do. Or yes, I'm going to take the prescription, but let's see how I can back up my body. How can I change my body? How can I make it more resilient to the problem that I'm getting? And probably if I drink more water, if I do this, etc., it's going to work very well. I was talking last night with a patient, and I said, what finally happened with this cough that COVID left you? She says, well, somebody told me to squeeze 3 lemons or 3 limes, and then put in it a couple of spoonfuls of honey, mix them, just warm, a little bit warm, not boil or hot, just let it, make it a little bit warm, and 1 clove of our garlic finely chopped. She says the garlic doesn't taste because you swallow it. So she mixes it and she drinks it, and cough went away. She says, I did it every time I had a cough access, and the cough went away. Why don't we do that? We know that garlic has a lot of capacities, lemon and honey. Don't go anywhere, I'm getting excited. I want to keep on talking with you. I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of Biocare Hospital. And today we're talking about Biocare and Biocare Hospital and what it means and how we come to create such an organization, such a hospital, such a type of service. And I'm telling you where I come from and what I have learned in my early days of as a doctor, and how I saw a lot of very useful things being forgotten, and how we had to build back everything, go back to the drawing board, bring back a lot of modalities that we used to do continuously and were very useful. And I'm not talking we as a hospital, I'm talking about we as the people. We used to do a lot of things. We used to use raw honey. We used to use lime juice. I was telling you about this remedy of lime juice with honey and garlic and things like that. Chicken soup. Chicken soup is everything your grandmother told you. It's just you have to know how to do it, and you have to choose your chicken, because even our chicken are sick today. If we have inflammatory chronic diseases, so our chicken. You know, it takes only a few weeks from the time you have a chick to the time it gets to your table. There's no chance that you're going to have a healthy animal on your table. So eat less, but eat better quality. Be more careful about food shopping, and that's going to make the change. There's a very important thing. Food producers are going to go wherever you take your wallet. So it is us who actually rule the thing. You don't have to eat what they give you. You just go to wherever they give you the food you want. And everybody is going to move in that direction, because your dollars are going to the good producers. So get on the web, look at things, how you do these things, how you sacrifice the animals, how you produce your crops, you use any chemicals, fertilizers, etc. And go to local places. That's probably one of the best ideas. Go to small places. I recently discovered, for example, a place that produces not only organic, but a big variety of potatoes in the United States. You can call them, you can click on them and order 10 pounds, 20 pounds of potatoes and have them home, of very good quality, different shapes, colors. I mean, you give fun to the children. What about a purple potato? And they taste very good and they're very lovable. So let's start doing things for our own help. And I was telling you that in the search of the protocols that I wanted for my patients, I started talking to different people across the globe. And because I have over 50 years of age, I had the privilege of meeting people that are now gone, that were the real pioneers of all these ideas. So I had the privilege, I have pictures with people that somebody told me, oh my God, you have a picture with this person or with the other. Did you meet them? Yeah, when I began as an alternative medical doctor, I was in my 30s. and they were 60, 70 years old. So yes, I had that privilege. Through the years, I have been able to meet a lot of people. Now, I meet a lot of people that are younger than me, that are going in the same direction, with the same type of medical philosophy. And I love them, because I see that more and more are coming about. And when I read, that I do every day, the medical literature, I see more and more and more papers talking about what used to be called alternative therapy. Talking about inflammation, talking about free radicals, talking about inflammatory degenerative diseases, talking about life expectancy beginning to decline, etc., etc., etc. So that makes me very happy, because I say, okay, we as a group, as humans, are taking care of what is the future going to hold for those people that will come after us. And remember that those people that are coming after us are people that we should really love, because they're our children and our children's children. So we want the best for them. Also, I had the privilege of traveling, because that was a very important way to connect. We didn't have internet, we didn't have a Zoom conference, so you had to travel. But I went to the Netherlands, I went to the Orient, to South Korea, to Japan, I kind of forgotten, to Kuala Lumpur, to Bangkok, to Hong Kong, to many places in Asia, to many places in Australia. I actually went from side to side, from Sydney to Perth, because there were a lot of people working in that area. And also in Europe. A lot of the alternative medical protocols that we use today, a lot of them were based in Germany, like the use of proteolytic enzymes, like the use of enemas, like the use and so forth. But the enemas were very common. My mother used to give them to us every time we had a problem. She would say, you have a problem here, you're going to have an enema. And sure enough, it worked. But then they were completely forgotten. If you open an American pharmacology book from 1950, 60, you're going to see enemas as a way of therapy. If you open any of those books printed today, there's not even mention about an enema. Why? I don't know. All I know, they work, and if you know how to use them, they're very helpful. And many people come to the hospital, do the enemas, they go home and they call me and they say, "Doctor, I felt so good, I want to keep on doing them. How do I do that?" So it's very important. It's very important that we start paying attention to bowel movements and so forth, because that tells me what's the health of your intestinal flora, and that's the beginning of longevity. A healthy intestinal flora is the beginning of good immunity, is the beginning of good antioxidation, is the beginning of longevity, great hormonal function, and so forth. So all these are very important, but they're very important for you to know. Because after all, you should be at the helm of your health administrative procedures. You should be at the helm. You're the one that has to think, I'm going to do a checkup, I'm going to check what's my vitamin D level, what's my inflammatory level. I'm going to ask my doctor for those things, because I know where I am. Because I want to live, and I want to live healthy, not just longer. You ask any people, would you like to live to be 100? And people are going to tell you, no, if I'm sick. Yes, if I'm functional. So that's the idea. And we can prevent, and we have programs like this, if you go to our blog, where we talk about longevity and anti-aging. And we're going to continue talking about that because it's a very important subject. Actually, it's the beginning of a healthy foundation for your life. So I was telling you that also with all those travels, you get more and more and more ideas. And then you bring them. And then you get with your doctors. And you say, I think this is smart and this is important. And every now and then you have a patient that has a problem that's not very common. And it's when you say, aha, I remember that we could do this. Let's try it. And you know what? It works in many, many times. And when I go to the room of the patient and I say, how are you doing? And I see a big smile, that's all I need to know I did my job. That's all I need to know. I'm very happy that I met this doctor in this place of the world these many years ago that told me about this condition because now I knew how to do this. And it happens in every profession. If you're an accountant, if you're an engineer, if you're a lawyer, if you are whatever, you will always learn something from somebody that eventually could help you to solve a big problem. That's what experience means. It's not all in the books, it's not all in the literature, it's not all on the web, it's not all in your cell phone. Our brains are still very important. And that's what I want to convince you to do. Use your brain to Biocare, to help your body function well and just be resistant, resilient, and healthy. So we don't call it Biocare for no reason. We call it because we truly believe that caring for your biology, for your functions, for your condition of performance is very important. And we call it international because we have traveled to many places of the world and we have been fortunate to receive many people in our hospital to also work together and show ways to do things, and I'm sure also learn something and take it back home. Once again, our community, our congregation of people that believe the same thing can be very important. And in these cases, it could be life-saving for many people. I want you to stay where you are so we can finish all this conversation to tell you what we get out of this for the future. Dear friends, I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez. I'm the medical director of Biocare Hospital and Wellness Center. And I have been telling you today about my path through medicine, how I became a doctor with a number of good ideas, and of course, like I hope every doctor does it, with the idea that you wanted to help people. I think everyone that becomes a doctor does it with that idea that I'm looking forward to help people to go through a very difficult time of their lives, which is disease, and help them back to regain their health and heal. That's what being a doctor is all about. But as a doctor, all through this time, I had to get used to a different type of medicine. I would probably think, I'm not sure, but I would probably think that a doctor that studied medicine in the 1920s, he probably went to the 50s without too many changes in the protocols or the way he lived. But as with everything else, as we enter 1950, everything started to change rapidly and in many cases, radically. And that meant that a lot of things began to change. And medical care was one of the very important areas of change. And we have gone through many fantastic ideas in medicine. Imaging, for example. I mean, we went to the use of radioactive material to localize tumors and other diseases in a way that we never thought was possible. We could detect tiny little molecules in the blood that we never thought we could ever measure. And now we can measure insulin, and we can measure hormones, and many of the anti-inflammatory substances, and many of the inflammatory substances. And we were able to see the patient under a different light and with a different perspective. We can measure now vitamin D, for example, which in the case of COVID was very important to know where we were, and we are now able to measure tiny fractions of tumoral markers that let us know if a cancer begins to develop. So yes, medicine has changed for the better in many ways. Surgical suites are now incredibly fantastic and filled with technology. Going through open heart surgery is not anymore any big problem. It's easy and it's successful. But in these years, I could see at the same time that we were neglecting our self-care. We wouldn't take the care we needed to. And I was looking at people and patients with diseases that I knew could have been prevented. Not changed, but just you didn't have to have them. And when I started putting in action some of those ideas, and I met a person that told me one day, you know, doctor, I have this problem, and the doctor says that I'm going to develop diabetes because my markers say this and this and this. And then I said, okay, let's try this. Let's try this, which is very simple. Let's try to lose weight. Let's try to eat different. Let's try to eat at fixed hours on a different schedule. Let's try to do simple things that cost you nothing and can change your life. And then I could see how they started getting slimmer, losing weight, feeling better, looking fantastic. And they told me, you know, I went to the doctor, and the doctor tells me that I doesn't know what I did, but he doesn't see any more signs of this problem. Then I grew more confident that we could do it. And then I started talking to people in Spain. Spain has a long life expectancy, same as Japan. And talking to all these people and see what they did. And then I saw that many of these principles is what they were applying. What about the Mediterranean diet? What about olive oil? What about garlic? So I started saying that yes, thy food could be thy medicine. And with that situation, of course, I became more and more, I could even say, of a fanatic, trying to help people to rebuild their lives around Biocare. And I was very surprised. I shouldn't even use the word because I should have expected it, that many of the people that I started treating looked better and healthier and functioned better, and they came to thank me because they were not only not sick anymore, but they felt fantastic. And then, through 50 years, their long time span, I could see that then I saw a younger person coming through my door and say, doctor, how are you? You know, I'm the son of. Oh my goodness, the children of my patients are beginning to come to the hospital to Biocare, to change their ways and to be healthier. That really made all my efforts really worthwhile. So we were locating problems before they appeared, and they were working fantastically well. So they sent their children, they started sending their friends, and we could see more and more people coming because of word of mouth. Because somebody says, I had this problem, I did this, it worked fantastic. And that's what I want to do with you. That's what I like to give you the message, to give you the idea that if you're 40, 30, or even younger, you have to say, what can I do in my day-to-day to make sure I'm going to be healthier, more resistant, more resilient, more whatever, because we know that health challenges can happen anytime. And because we know that inflammation and free radicals and all these things are happening every day. Hormonal disturbances, immune disturbances, etc. What about aging? Well, aging is also the end result of a number of circumstances within our body. And we're going to talk about that in following blogs, in following conversations. I want to talk about skin health, because many people wonder, should I use this cream or not? And I'm going to talk about it. What about our skin? Is it because of looks? No, it's the largest organ of the body. It's the barrier between our internal milieu and the external world. It's a very important organ. And yes, we have a lot of good ideas to biocare your skin. So we have to do all that, but you have to be aware. I cannot even begin if I cannot convince you that this is very important. That you have to sit all alone and say, what can I do to be healthier? What can I do to be stronger? What can I do to be physically stronger, or have more stamina, or be more focused, or sleep better, or do not have all these acid reflux, or you know what I'm talking about. I'm bloated, etc. You know what I'm talking about. And all those symptoms spell problem down the road. And we have answers for them. And you can call me, you can click on the social media of your choice and ask a question and say, doctor, what can I do? But remember that we have a full program, what we call a health getaway, a Biocare health getaway, where you can come from 10 days, 2 weeks, be checked, do everything, do all the markers, look for early signs of tumors or immune inflammatory conditions. Why it's important? Because you can prevent them all. Because you want to live longer but healthier. So you have to do is sit down with yourself, analyze all this information, ask a question. I will always be there for you. You can click the question, you can call me and say, this is what I'm thinking. And once you have a plan, you have to sit with your family. I call it the situation room. Sit with your family at the dining table with your children. Okay? Your children have to know about this. I don't know why we keep them away from all these things, from all these decisions. Why? Because they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with you. And you have to be more analytic And you know what? You're going to be surprised. I know so many young people today that are actually modifying the ways of their parents. And patients that tell me, you know what? My son is the one that got me off smoking. My son is the one that told me not to have soda pop. My son is the one that made me a vegetarian. My son is, etc. In other words, younger people are getting more interested in health. Thank God. But Biocare is there for you. I, Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, will always be there for you. Give me a like, follow me, ask a question, send a comment. Let's stick together. Remember, congregation means survival. Have a good one.